Picture this, it's the summer of 1402. On a dusty plain in what is now Turkey, two of the most powerful empires on Earth are about to collide. But this wasn't just a battle for territory. No, this was a clash of two colossal egos, a showdown that would literally break an empire and completely reshape the course of history for the next 50 years. This is the story of the Battle of Ankara. And right out of the gate, you can see how high the stakes were. This wasn't just politics, it was intensely personal. That oath, the Talaka Selassie, was the most serious, the most binding promise a Muslim man could make. By saying this, Sultan Bayezid was basically burning his bridges. It was victory or absolute personal ruin. There was no going back. So, who are the two men at the center of this storm? Well, in one corner you have Sultan Bayezid I. His nickname was the Thunderbolt, and for good reason. He was known for the lightning speed of his campaigns and his huge win over European crusaders at Nicopolis. And in the other corner you have Emir Timur. You might know him as Tamerlane. This guy saw himself as the next Genghis Khan, a ruthless and brilliant conqueror, building a terrifyingly large empire stretching all the way from India to Russia. We're talking about two absolute titans, and each one was completely convinced that destiny was on his side. Now, if you look at a map from this time, you can see the problem. Both the Ottoman and Timurid empires were growing, and they were growing fast. Their borders were just creeping closer and closer to each other. With the prize being Anatolia, there just wasn't enough room for two rulers with this much ambition. A collision wasn't just likely, it was absolutely inevitable. But this whole thing wasn't just about lines on a map. Oh no. This conflict was fueled by pure, unfiltered animosity. It was waged through a series of letters, each one more venomous than the last. It very quickly went from being a geopolitical dispute to a bitter personal feud, a war of words that pretty much guaranteed a real war was coming. Timur, he fired the first shot, and it was a masterclass in condescension. He calls Bayezid, the conqueror of the Balkans, mind you, a mere border lord. He's basically patting him on the head, telling him he's a minor leaguer playing in the big leagues. He demanded Bayezid hand over his enemies and act like a vassal. This wasn't diplomacy, it was a calculated insult, and it was designed to get a reaction. And boy, did it get a reaction. Bayezid's reply was just pure fire. He calls Timur a rabid dog, questions his faith, mocks his army, and then he drops the ultimate challenge, that divorce oath we talked about. After this letter, that's it. All the doors to diplomacy were slammed shut and locked. The only place these two were going to meet now was the battlefield. So, while all these insults were flying back and forth, one of these leaders was thinking way ahead. You see, the Battle of Ankara wasn't just won by brute force. It was won by intellect, by strategy, and it was probably won long before the first soldier ever drew his sword. That's the million-dollar question for any general, isn't it? Bayezid had a powerful, veteran army. They were tough. So how do you possibly neutralize that kind of strength before the battle even begins? Well, Timur had an answer, and it was as brilliant as it was cruel. Okay, so Bayezid force marches his army across the dry plains of Anatolia. And remember, it's July, so it is brutally hot. When the exhausted Ottoman army finally arrives at the battlefield near Ankara, they make a horrifying discovery. Timur had gotten there first, and he'd seized the only real water source in the area, the Çubuk stream. And get this, he diverted its course. The Ottoman army showed up to the fight already beaten, not by a sword, but by thirst. But a lack of water wasn't Timur's only nasty surprise. He brought something the Ottomans had never, ever seen before: 32 armored war elephants. I mean, just try to imagine that. These were literally the tanks of the 15th century, brought all the way from India. They probably had towers on their backs filled with archers, maybe even troops using Greek fire. The psychological shock of seeing these monsters charging at you must have been absolutely terrifying. And so, on July 28, 1402, the stage is set. You have the Ottoman army, dehydrated, exhausted, and now facing a bigger, better-rested army that has a secret weapon. But believe it or not, the worst was still yet to come for them. So let's take a quick look at the forces on the field. Timur clearly has more men. But honestly, the most important part of this whole chart isn't the numbers. It's that line at the bottom right, the Kara Tatars. These were Tatar horsemen in the Ottoman army, but their loyalty was shaky, to say the least. And Timur, being the master strategist he was, knew this, and he'd been in touch with them before the battle. The battle actually starts with a moment of hope for the Ottomans. Their Serbian allies make this incredibly brave charge and actually manage to push back one of Timur's flanks. But then, the trap springs. The Kara Tatars suddenly turn their coats and attack the Ottoman army from the inside. At the same time, Anatolian troops on the other flank see their old rulers fighting for Timur, and they defect too. The Ottoman army just evaporates. The elephants charge what's left of the center, and in the middle of all that chaos, Sultan Bayezid himself is surrounded and captured. The battle itself was over pretty quickly, but the consequences, the shockwaves from this one day, would echo for generations. The Ottoman Empire, which had looked completely unstoppable just the day before, was now totally and utterly shattered. The fallout from this one fight would change the world map. The aftermath was just seismic. Bayezid's capture plunged the Ottoman Empire into a brutal 11-year civil war, with his sons fighting each other for the broken throne. This power vacuum gave the dying Byzantine Empire an unexpected 50-year lease on life, delaying the fall of Constantinople all the way to 1453. As for the main players, Bayezid died in captivity, and Timur himself died just a few years later, ironically, while he was getting ready to invade China. It's just an incredible thing to think about. One single day, one clever, ruthless strategy, and one pre-planned betrayal, and the entire balance of power in the world shifts. It just goes to show you how all of history can pivot on a single moment, next to a single stolen stream. What do you think would have happened if Bayezid had won?